voting against cluster bombs for Ukraine. Over 50 Democrats rebuke Biden. Nearly 50 House Democrats on Thursday downplayed President Joe Biden, voting in favor of an amendment to the National Defense Authorization Act (NDAA), aimed at thwarting President Joe Biden's efforts to deploy ballistic missiles for Ukraine. Amendment No. Hurriyat TC Marjorie Taylor Greene of Georgia failed in the House with 276 votes to 147 and received 98th support from 49 Democrats. The screen shows the opposition that members of his own party have faced since Biden announced his decision to bomb in Ukraine. Biden described the decision as difficult because the Ukrainian offensive against Russian forces was swift and he was running out of bullets. The president described the bombing group as necessary to win the war. Cluster munitions are combat weapons that fire hundreds of rounds into an area, making the weapon effective at targeting multiple targets such as enemy soldiers, but very dangerously when some explosions explode when they begin to fail on impact. Lawmakers and human rights activists are sounding the alarm about the potential dangers guns pose to civilians. More than 100 countries have banned the weapons, but Ukraine, Russia, and the United States have not. American and Ukrainian officials confirmed earlier Thursday that the first bomb had reached Ukraine. Ukrainian General Oleksandr Tarnovsky told CNN that weapons could be thrown onto the battlefield while trying to defend Russia. Tarnovsky also said in the interview that Ukraine wanted Russia to leave the areas where the bombs were most effective, reiterating Ukraine's promise that the bombs would be used away from the people. Members of the government said that Ireland is not in the middle of the conflict and that our support for Ukraine is constant and unwavering. While it is easy to see the moral side of our work, Ireland's military middle presents a more difficult situation to draw. Ireland's initial employment program includes millions of dollars in non-death services, which member governments want to emphasize will not violate Ireland's tripartite neutrality system. Since then, there have been constant and sometimes bitter debates about Ireland as a place of conflict, Europe, and the world. The discussion took a new turn this week with the announcement that the U.S. has begun sending explosives to Kyiv. U.S. President Joe Biden argued that the decision to send weapons to Ukraine to counter Russian aggression was difficult. The missiles were banned by the International Conference in 2008, where Ireland was not only the main signatory but also the acceptor. The deal was seen as a major blow to Irish diplomacy, especially for Foreign Minister Dermot Ahern. His successor, Michael Martin, returned this week, encouraging people to sign the deal. It's a great political achievement for Ireland, and I think more than 120 countries have signed it to the end, he said. I remember working with Gordon Brown to get Britain to agree to a ban on ballistic missiles, and I remember meeting a lot of people around the world, especially in Asia, vulnerable people. People were seriously injured as a result of the group bomb spread widely, causing serious injuries and damage. Died long after the conflict ended. United States, Russia, and China. International Biden, who signed the new signing ban, the Ukrainians, bullets and rockets are Russian. He said he would provide a temporary solution to stop the tanks, but in many cases it was decided to question the use of nuclear weapons. A staging point for U.S. shipments as Shannon Airlines. Use of the airport has been problematic since the 2003 Iraq War, but the continued use of the Shannon by the U.S. military since the end of the war has been very successful. With 120 exemptions granted since May last month, all arms shipments under the Air Navigation, War, Weapons and Dangerous Goods Transport order should be exempted. But the question is, will the government illegally sign a law in the nation's capital that allows the United States to send banned bombs to war zones? It is very likely that these illegal bombs were transported from Shannon Airport to Ukraine, said Edward Horgan of the Peace and Neutrality Coalition. In fact, last year the Irish Inspectorate reported that the Department of Transport acknowledged that it did not check whether the Ukrainian plane that landed at Shannon was carrying heavy artillery despite images of loaded guns in Australia. However, Prime Minister Leo Varadkar came out early and criticized the U.S. move. "I think this is a wrong decision. America is our friend and we really support Ukraine's struggle to defend its country and freedom. Russia and Ukraine used explosives. I think that's wrong," said Mr. Varadkar. Minister of State noted that explosives last a long time after they are first ignited and can harm the public for years. Greens leader Eamon Ryan was equally vehemently opposed. "Clear in my mind. We were responsible for the use of rockets and we will protect this right." Mr. Martin said on Thursday that Ireland's position has not changed, but that he believes the problem will not arise. U.S. planes landed at Shannon. He added that he will help save the lives of Ukrainian soldiers, that Ukraine will certainly record its use and exchange information with its partners. "Our task is simple. We need to leave our region for a while and save the lives of our people," Reznikov said. "Ukraine will use these missiles only to destroy our position in the recognized territory. These bombs will not be used on the recognized territory of Russia." The country has banned fireworks in over 100 areas. They usually drop a series of small bombs that can cause incredible damage in an area. Those that don't explode are dangerous for years. Moscow once again criticized the U.S. decision on Saturday, calling it another shocking example of Washington's anti-Russian approach. A spokesperson for the State Department said, "Washington and Kyiv rely on another magic weapon that, without thinking about the serious consequences, will not affect the Special Military Operations Project. Its aims and objectives succeeded," Maria Zakharova said in a statement. Jack Sullivan, National Security Advisor to U.S. President Joe Biden, on Friday sought to supply Ukraine with weapons to retake territory captured from Russia in the February 2022 invasion. "We are aware that fireworks pose a risk of civilian casualties from unexploded bombs," Sullivan told reporters. "But if the Russian army and tanks pass through Ukrainian positions, occupy more Ukrainian territory, and subjugate more Ukrainian citizens, there is also a huge risk that civilians will be injured because Ukraine does not have enough artillery," he said. Reznikov said that the army will not use rockets in the city and will only use them to circumvent the enemy's defenses.